everybody! Welcome to the Dungeon Cooldown.
Hello, happy Monday. How was everyone in chat?
How was your weekends? I see our first folks in chat was Borkware Mark D. Borkware Mark D, you are almost always the first person in chat. Hello, thank you for showing up early for our shows. We have Bubblegummy, Femic5, Willmeister 420, Whisper Josephine, one of our mods, I believe, Crafting Crunch, Gateway Guy. Hi everybody, thank you so much for showing up for our Monday Cooldown show where we talk all things Dungeon Run, go over theories, sometimes we bring in fan art, we talk about character decisions that were made during the last episode, and we see that a hype train is close, so thank you so much for all of your support, those subs and those bits that go to the channel. Support us, thank you so much. We have some questions from the Patreon, and from, I believe, Jared, you put some questions in the Discord as well, right?
Yeah, I opened it up to pretty much anybody for today's cooldown. So, and if you have any last-minute questions that you want to ask us, or a question that Jared sounds like he's in the bathroom or another very echoey room.
You know what? It could be me, because as you can see, I'm in a different place. I'm in Michigan right now. I'm here for my sister's wedding, and so I'm running tech from my parents' basement. And so it could be my audio that I'm intaking. There's quite an echo. Oh no, it is probably me. Okay, let me figure that out.
There's an echo on just me, or there's an echo on everything?
I bet it's because...
Chat, let us know.
How about this? It's probably because it's coming out of my speakers and back into the microphone.
Uh-oh.
All right, go ahead and start talking. We'll see if it's better now.
Okay. Yeah, so a couple quick announcements. We do have a bonus show, mostly Jared, when Jared talks, just Jared. Awesome. Great.
It's me, it's my fault. It's my fault.
Is the echo bad enough to where people can't hear what I'm saying? Is that...
It's better now, because I turned you down. It was.
Better.
It was coming out of my speakers because I don't have headphones, and it was going back into my mic.
Okay.
It's all right, we got it.
All right. That's my other soul. That's the evil side of Jared talking at the same time as the good side of Jared. It's hard to tell the difference between them sometimes. Anyways, going back to what I was originally saying, we have a bonus show coming soon that we've been working very, very hard on. And it's going to be something that's available on Patreon at first, but we will also be releasing it on YouTube as well for anyone and everyone to bring more people into the fold. I don't want to go into too much detail, but we have some guests, some great guests coming onto the show. And Ron and I are the hosts, although that might change. There might be some guest hosting done by other people on the Dungeon Run. Maybe Jessica, maybe she will host it at some point.
I'd love to.
But we're having some lovely people on the show. Some people that you know, some people that are going to be new to you. The idea behind the bonus show is to bring light to the people behind the scenes. And that is all I will say for now. So that is your little tasty treat to get you going. That's your appetizer.
We're all very excited.
Yeah.
To answer a couple
so that will be
folks in
soon.
chat,
That'll be coming soon this week.
I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan right now. That's where I'm from. I'm actually from a smaller town nearby, but and I'm not technically in Grand Rapids. I'm actually in the middle of the woods, ergo the poor internet. But I'm here for about another week.
And how is Michigan?
It's good. Apparently, I brought the California weather with me and brought a warm front. So
Nice.
It was high 70s during the day, and then lows of maybe high 50s at night. It was gorgeous, gorgeous. Now it's like an overcast.
You don't have
day,
much of a dialect now that I think about it. Being
Me?
from Michigan. Yeah.
When I
Did
went
you
to
work
college,
to get rid of your dialect?
When I went to college in Michigan, we had a voice and movement teacher who taught us how to speak a little more with a more neutral tone. Yeah, because I come back to Michigan and I hear my mom talk with the harshest R's and just talk like this, and everything was really, really forced out like this, you know? And yeah, I've relearned that. I used to get made fun of for saying like calendar and
Oh
just like
yeah.
random words where people would be like, "What did you say? Excuse me?"
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm from a rural part of Washington State, and I had to work very hard to get rid of my dialect. I didn't think I had a dialect until I got into undergraduate, and they were like, "Yeah, you're a little rednecky."
Yeah. What does it sound like, Jared?
Porch, get, tight E's. So 10 and 10 sound the exact same. 10 as in the number 10, and as in metal 10. 10 and 10.
10,
10, 10.
10 and
10
10.
and 10.
Do
Yeah.
you and Katie have the same accent since you're from the same place, ish?
A little bit different. She's from the middle of the state, although she's from a very small town. My guess is she probably had a little bit of a dialect that she needed to work on as well when she got into undergraduate.
I mean, I feel like
If I had to guess.
most people do, I think. Everybody's got some kind of small accent. And I
Yeah.
see a couple comments. There's a couple people who know about Yoopers. Yoopers are, if anybody has seen Escanaba into Moonlight or read the play by Jeff Daniels, that's, all the Yoopers. It's the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and they talk like Canadians, and they, that's an accent that would be mighty hard to get rid of, I think, eh?
Yeah, that's funny because I believe the part of Washington State that Katie is from is pretty close to Canada too. So I wonder if she has any Canadian. We'll have to save that for the next time Katie's on the Dungeon Cooldown chat. You need to ask her about her natural dialect and whether or not she had to work hard to get rid of it or not. Shall we jump into some of these questions? So the way Cooldown works, this is obviously the whole reason why this show exists is for our Patreon. It's supported by our Patreon, patreon.com/thedungeonrun. And you get to ask us anything you want, anything that you want to know about us or the show or anything. Yeah.
Oh, and we do have a question from chat from Bubblegummy or from earlier. We'll get to that later if we can get through the Patreon questions, okay?
Yes. Keep those questions rolling. You can hear me now. Okay, great. So, Jessica, did Fahima consider portaling back to the Ashen Mage's hideout to use a location information Force of Good card? For example, where exactly in Ain is this hideout located or something similar? So we got a Force of Good card in the last episode that allowed us to kiss the joint, i.e. case the joint, and it would give us information, anything we wanted to know about that particular location. So did you think about using that on the Ashen Mage layer?
No, I don't really consider game breaking. You know, like I feel like that is a possibility, sure, but I don't know if Jeff would even let that fly because it breaks the game. You know, it feels like a shortcut. It feels like skipping way ahead in the novel if we know where the Ashen Mage's lair is, you know?
Yeah.
So I think even if I attempted to do that, I think Jeff would blow me up as soon as I got in. You know what I mean? Like stop that from happening. Not that he would like nerf my choice, but I just think that if you're gonna try to cheat the system, if you're gonna try to skip way ahead in the plot line and the adventure, there's gonna be major repercussions for that. And I think that's fair. Yeah. What do you think, Jared? What are your thoughts on that topic?
I mean, my only, I agree with you. My only argument on the flip side of that, just to be devil's advocate, is that she's scrying on you. So she is doing that to you.
Yeah.
So it would be kind of fun for you to get a little bit of payback and be like, all right, well, I have this amulet magic, so I'm going to use that against you, and I'm going to get to know information that you otherwise would not have been able to gain in any other way, you know? Because I feel like it's only a matter of time before somebody, James, Fahima, or Lily, start scrying. Can you guys scry? What level is scry?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. What level is scrying? I you know, there are some spells that I don't pick up because I don't want to break the game, you know. Scrying looks like I'm pretty sure that's a low enough level that I can take it. 5th level, yeah. So I could have taken it at this last level.
Okay.
So this
But it is
allows
a
you
5th level
to.
spell, so I mean that's a big, big choice, big purchase, as they say.
So I would get a I know the target well. I think I would. I think I would get. She would get a -5 on her save because I know the target
Yeah,
well.
for
Body
sure.
part, lock of hair, bit of nail. I don't have that. I should have. I should have
At one
like
point, I felt
done a
like
sweep of the bathroom.
Ron tried to get some of her hair, and Jeff was like, "Yeah, you find a strand of hair, but you're not even sure if it's hers." But I think that's it. We have her book though. Like those books are, you know, crafted by her. I would think that would be a pretty personal object.
Yeah, I mean her fingerprints are probably all over them, but that's not really a body part. It says body
I
parts
see.
specifically,
I
and
see.
then it lists types of body parts.
Does she have a piece of your body? Did she cut your hair or anything when she had you as a prisoner?
Well, you see, what happened was, um,
Whoa.
Fahima may or may not have used the Ashen Mage's blood to heal, showing off her spare spell. So Fahima actually has the Ashen Mage's blood
Oh. Well,
in
there
her
you
body.
go.
In her body, though.
Oh, in your body.
Yeah,
That's not gonna work.
yeah. So, cause
I see.
yeah, when it was between like healing, giving her my blood to heal versus taking her blood to heal, right? I have to go back and watch those episodes. I'm pretty sure Fahima cut her hand and then used her blood to heal. Oh shoot, now I can't remember which way it went. I can't remember if
That would have
Fahima
used
her
up the blood too. Like she wouldn't get to keep it.
Right.
It sounds like you guys don't have body parts of either of you. Like you don't have Ashen Mage body parts, and
No.
she doesn't have Fahima body parts.
No, it's just
So
blood.
that's probably a good thing. Yeah. All right.
Already has my fingertips since episode 4. My fingertips? Oh, from
Has
that
the blood, yeah, because
the
you put your
zap?
finger into that thing and it made a clone of you. Yeah.
But that
So
was
they
just
do.
a fingerprint.
Yeah, but he's able to clone you, so he's definitely got enough of your quote unquote fantasy DNA. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good
Yikes.
point. So she can easily scry on you, and you would have a harder time scrying on her.
Yeah. Yeah, but somebody in chat said, I have to go back up and see who it was. What if it was actually Conroy who's been scrying? I mean,
True. That's true. We don't know who's scrying on you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it was G. Westbrook. What if it is Conroy that's scrying? That would be
Yeah.
possession or garment, -4. Are you looking at 5e though, MT Daywalt? Because in 5e it says it has to be a body part. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hair, fingernail, something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good question. Good question.
Yeah, great question.
Another one from Mr. Prophet or Mrs. Prophet. For Jared, was Civ really ready to fight by himself? Yes. Wax and his guards/goons when Civ denied giving over the gold willingly. Do you think keeping Wax alive has opened up the possibility for a future ally in Turles? I would hope so. I would hope so. I would love to see Wax again. The thing with Wax and Civ is that Civ kind of felt like he was looking in a mirror. Even though Wax is a little delusional, like he's a little loopy, which makes sense because he's been through a lot. Civ saw a lot of himself in Wax, and so he didn't really want to kill him. But the other thing about Civ is that he's tired. He's tired of being backed into a corner. He's tired of seeing people suffer needlessly. He's tired of the rich and powerful getting away with murder. He's over it. And so in that moment, I was thinking as Civ, you know what, if this guy is so desperate for money, if he wants revenge for us duping him, you know, way back in the day with our pretend magical item, then I'm going to give him a fight. I'm going to give him what he wants. Now, in my mind, game mechanics wise, I was already doing the numbers in my head as to, all right, there's 3 of them plus a possible 4th behind me. What is that going to do to my abilities? Can I kill him quickly enough? Can I take out the other 2 if necessary? And then when I realized when we started the fight that he was not up to the task to take me out on his own, it really started to feel like a moral question for Civ. Would Civ kill, you know, his clone? Would Civ kill the mirror image of himself? And he doesn't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Jared and Civ in this moment definitely align, and I just don't want to kill the people that have already suffered too much. I want revenge, and I want a comeuppance and a redemption for not only myself but for the people that have, you know, that are calling the shots, that are in charge, that are making the choices. Because if this is a game about choices and consequences, then those people at the top are not having to pay the consequences for the choices that they've made. And that's one of the reasons why I snapped at Fesh. Because he's just sitting there in his library doing nothing while people are dying. Because he wants to follow the rules. And the rules are made up by somebody who does not care about the weak, the disenfranchised, the poor, the biasness against those that practice magic. So I don't know if that answers all of your questions, but it wasn't about the gold. I mean, if I could just give him 100 gold and he walks away, then I probably would have done that. But I think if you rewatch it, you'll see between Wax and I that it wasn't about the gold. It's about power, reputation, the lies that we have to tell to survive, and, you know, getting revenge on people.
So you really have 2 big geographical locations in Ain right now where you feel a personal connection to the suffering. Obviously,
Turles is essentially Olsvach 2.0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shantytown. I mean, that's a lot of trauma. You know, so far I think Fahima is the only character that is not tied to a geographical location of intense trauma.
Yeah, and we're going to your home next, so have fun with that.
I'm sure it's all fine.
Yeah. We're going to get there, and it's just going to be tea and biscuits.
I hope so.
Hopefully that answers your question, and I didn't go on too much of a rampage there. Aaron J. Sussman, is Fahima secretly in love with bread? ? I hope she likes toast.
Fahima does love bread. I wouldn't say she's in love with bread. We haven't quite reached that level yet. It's an ongoing discussion for sure, but I can tell you what really draws her to bread is that you can apply varying levels of heat to bread, and it chemically changes its texture and deliciousness. So that's a huge plus for bread.
I love the idea of a future moment where Fahima is like, oven? We don't need an oven. And she just literally bakes bread in her bare hands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just rises right here.
Yeah. My wife loves bread, any form of bread. That is definitely her. And I like bread. Don't get me wrong. I love like a good sourdough and what have you. But
Who doesn't
man, there are
love
people.
bread?
Yeah, there are people in this world that bread is like their own. It's their own food group. Like, you know what I mean? Like, bread is in the pyramid, the food pyramid. If you learned that in school, it's its own thing. Not grains, just bread. Great question. Dr. Sparks, does Fahima feel that the library has more opportunities for her to explore new magic in Turles? That's a great question. Does she want more time to study there?
Yes and no. Yes, because it is probably the greatest library in Ain, or at least the most accessible greatest library in Ain. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's the laundry in my basement. Um, or something's going on with the water in the vents. But
I
no,
can't hear anything, so you're good.
because it really seems like the texts of interest to Fahima right now, they're texts. I mean, even her dad said that she's reached his level or perhaps even surpassed his level of Arcana. So what she would need to find is kind of like the forbidden section of the library of the texts that are not supposed to be found, ones that challenge the norm, challenge what we know about science and magic, and I just don't think that those books are going to be found in Turles. So
Well, James found his book in Turles.
yes, that's true. Yeah, I think it would take Fahima sneaking around and sleuthing, and I just don't know. I mean, she could certainly do that before they leave. It just
Yeah.
seems like it's a bit disrespectful to the people who are helping them in Turles. So we'll
Yeah.
see. But
Yeah.
I have
I
a
think
feeling.
you could also talk to Fesh about it. Fesh or Torvald might be able to be, because they were kind of like offering their services as far as research is concerned. So if
Yeah.
there's a specific book that you're looking for or a specific subject that you're looking for, I definitely think you could try tapping into that.
Well, I don't know that there is a specific subject other than maybe blood magic, because it's kind of like the Anivrius the Keen books where it's I don't know what I don't know. Fahima doesn't know what she doesn't know, and
Right.
I think that there will be magical books and magical texts as we travel across Ain to the west. That will be of interest
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, really, it's these kind of like new homebrew spells and the Anivrius the Keen books that Jeff has come up with that I think help Fahima expand her magic. But it's definitely worth a shot.
Are you planning on doing primarily homebrew spells in the future with Jeff, or is it are there some spells that are actually in the books, the regular D&D books, the normal spells that are on your list of wants?
Definitely. I mean, there are definitely a lot of spells that I want that Fahima wants. I think last level we did 2 homebrew flavored spells because I don't know, level 5 there wasn't a whole lot that was really calling to me, and yeah, I really wanted Meep to have more integration into the spells. I think what I'll probably do is start to tailor the spells like that, like kind of flavor them a little more to Fahima. Like next level, I definitely want to start buffing up her melee defenses because she clearly likes to fight in close combat.
And
So
we are Uggo-less a little bit.
yeah, so Fire Shield exists. She already has Wall of Fire. She already has Shield, which I forgot to use in the last fight, and it could have minimized so much damage. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I do like a lot of the spells though that are coming up. They're very powerful.
Cool.
And yeah, Witchface says all the books Fahima wants have been burned with the War of Knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I'm sure there's going to be some more that pop up eventually. Beaker Par asks, what is your football watching ritual? Beer, food, and anything else? Who is the biggest sports fan on TDR? This is a sore subject. This is a very sore subject. I I don't know about everybody else. I can only speak for myself, and I know Jeff is a diehard 49ers fan, and I'm a diehard Seahawks fan. Lately, I haven't been able to watch the games live. I've only been able to watch them after the fact and seeing like primarily highlights and what have you. So my ritual has kind of been destroyed. Beer is obviously part of that. Snacks is obviously part of that. I would challenge Jeff to see who's the bigger football fan. What about you, Jessica? Are you a football person?
Sadly, no one can hear me, right? No one in Michigan can hear me. Michigan is a huge sports state, as I'm sure you guys know.
I know.
And
I
a huge
know.
football state, especially for college football, college sports. My mom actually works for the Whitecaps, who are like, whatever you call the smaller team for the Tigers, the Detroit Tigers.
Okay.
So,
Minor league, more or less.
yeah, minor league, yeah. So sports is definitely in my family. I think everybody's obsessed with sports except for me.
Whisper Josephine says, "I really wish Detroit had a professional football team."
Yeah, right?
Zing! Yeah. I have not had the time to devote to football lately, but I will definitely be, hopefully later on in the season, be able to get more involved. I would love to hear in chat who your favorite football team is. Are you guys all based in the States? And if so, is there a professional team that you like, or are you into college? Put it in chat. Beaker Parr also says, "Where on Earth would your characters love to visit?" I'm not sure if that means where on Earth as in like our planet or Ein. I'm assuming if Civ was going to be here in this world, go Ohio State. If Civ was in the United States, or if he was on Earth, I don't know where he would want to go. That's a really hard question to answer. Probably someplace, because he's had such a good experience with Bingo, probably someplace tropical that he can just relax for a while and decompress. Mm-hmm. So Hawaii, Bali comes to mind. I loved Bali. I went there for my honeymoon, and it was amazing.
Oh, I want to go.
Yeah, Thailand. Someplace tropical where he can just sit on the beach and do nothing.
Fahima would probably go to the jungle. She would go to wherever the most exotic animals are, and exotic and dangerous animals are. Maybe Australia as well. Amazon jungle.
Sure.
Yeah.
I could see that. See as many crazy cool animals as possible. I'm seeing a lot of I got Dallas Cowboys, I got the Patriots, Ohio State. Never really cared about pro sports. Clemson Tigers. Oh, how I hate Ohio State. All right. Maybe I shouldn't have asked that question in chat. Good times. So we got some football fans. That's cool. Gateway Guy, question for Jared. I love that Civ changes accents to best suit certain situations, but I'm curious about the accent switch mid-conversation when you were alone with Fahima in the hallway discussing addiction. What was your thought process on the switch? For both of you, incredible scene, by the way. Thank you, Gateway Guy. The accent thing with Civ is, in my mind, it's where is his brain at and how comfortable is he? If he's doing okay, which he is currently not, if he's not doing okay, then he's in Sivrak mode. He's in survival mode. He's in, I need to do what it takes to survive and to win, whatever the obstacle may be. And then as far as Civ goes, or Red Thistle, the British accent, the idea behind that character is that that's who he wants to be. Civ Red Thistle is something that Sivrak imagined. He wants to be this hero. He wants to do good. And so when we got into Turles, our goal when we got there is I want to do good. I want to help this place. I want to lift the moratorium. I want to clear our name. I want to help save these people and beat back the demons. And that was not working out the way Civ had hoped it would or had planned. Things were kind of blowing up in our face. And he also saw the ugly side of Turles. And so that's when Civrak starts to come out. And because Fahima actually, believe it or not, in that conversation, he let his guard down a little bit because she was really, pushing him. Not in a harsh way, but like in a I care about you kind of way. He let his guard down, and that's why Civrak came out. That's why I made that choice. Because it felt weird to be putting on a fake accent and a fake persona with someone who genuinely cared about me and who is my friend.
Would you say that which accent is more defensive, or does that kind of switch based on how Civ is feeling?
It's a different kind of defensive when he's Civrak. If he switches to Civrak and he's angry about something and he wants to inflict pain on someone, that's a dangerous sign. If he switches to Civrak because he's, again, letting his guard down, he's letting the persona go, that's a completely different form of Civrak. That's the side of Civrak that I don't think very many people get to see. And that's why he did that with Fahima. It was a very subtle thing, and I'm glad somebody picked up on it. But, he's trying. He's doing the best he can do. He's trying really hard to make a horrible situation better. And he doesn't have a lot of hope left. He's really getting beaten down lately by what's happening in the story.
What are your thoughts on that conversation in terms of kind of the timing of the confrontation because I felt as a player and as, that of course gets folded into Fahima, that your drinking problem is getting worse and you're getting a little less subtle about it, right? Like you're caring less about when people are seeing you drinking. And so that's when I felt the responsibility as a player to bring up this topic of addiction and of drinking too much, because I think that can be triggering for people. And I did see some people in chat say that it was triggering for them, and to not acknowledge it as a player feels bad to me. And so what are your thoughts on the timeline of Civ and his drinking problem? And
I think he's always drank. I think he's always been a drinker. But I think because of what's happened recently, it's gotten worse. I think if we had been successful in Olswatch, I think if Thorn had gone perfectly, even though we did succeed in a way in Thorn, he still feels the loss of Uggo. And he thinks that could have been avoided. He thinks that could have been averted or done differently. And so he still views that as kind of like a half win. Olswatch was just a loss. There's complete, utter failure. I don't know what rock bottom is, whispered Josephine. I really don't. And honestly, I want to do Civ justice, but I also don't want to bring people down like when they watch the show. So it's a struggle for me as an actor, because I don't want to just play alcoholism, because I think that's not giving the story justice, and that's not giving the character truth. That's playing a stereotype. I think the alcoholism is going along on a perfect line with the story. The harder things get, the worse things get, the more people he loses to the situation, the more people that are that he relates to suffer, the more he drinks. And the better things get, the more success we have, and the more of a I don't know how to word this, salvation maybe for the poor and the disenfranchised and the forgotten, the less he drinks. And there were also moments where Lily kind of reached out an olive branch and, really asked him point blank, will you please stop or at least cut back? And he honestly, in that moment, wanted to. He wants to. But the one thing that I also see as a reoccurring theme in our overall storytelling is that all of these characters have had to sacrifice in one way or another. They've all had to take on this huge responsibility, and how each of us copes with that, and the choices that we make and the consequences that come out of that is a very interesting character study, because each of us are dealing with it in a completely different way. And I think you can see it in each character if you really think about it and watch them from the beginning of the show to now, the ups and downs that we've had and how each character deals with all of that. And so my hope is that, Civ finds the light at the end of the tunnel at some point and he can work his way through all of this. But when I made him, I never thought of him as an alcoholic character. I thought of him as someone that likes to drink, but I never thought of him as an alcoholic. That literally came out of the story and out of the role playing and out of thinking in my head, well, how would Civ cope with this moment? How would he cope with this ex-love of his sacrificing herself? How would he deal with that? He would rely on his friends and he would drink. So, yeah, that's, I don't know. It's a tough one. It's something that I struggle with because I have experience in my life, not with me being an alcoholic, but with other people in my life being alcoholics and being on the other side of that. And so it's real. And I think the thing that I liked about that scene between Fahima and Civ is that that scene felt like it could have happened on any episodic TV show. Mm-hmm. We were just two people in a hallway. It wasn't necessarily a tabaxi rogue swashbuckler
right.
fighter and a fire genasi, wizard. We were two people having a conversation about trauma and addictions.
Yeah, I felt that definitely in the moment. I really tried to approach that situation as I would approach it in real life, because I wanted that scene to be as grounded as possible, because that's like you said, it's a very real thing that people go through, and I wanted to make sure that I was approaching the situation carefully, because if this is a show where people are escaping reality, if it's a show where people are kind of reflecting on their own life choices, I want to make sure that I'm taking care with the words that I choose, and that they have as much empathy and love as possible, because it's not something to play around with. And all I really know, because I haven't really experienced a loved one with an addiction problem, well, that's not true. Well, I haven't had a loved one with this specific problem, and all I know is that you can't tell them that they're doing anything wrong, because that'll push them away. You just have to communicate that you're there for them.
Yeah, there's a whole website and series of books that revolve around just helping other people through their addictions and how you have to not blame yourself, but at the same time not encourage them to continue with whatever their addiction is.
I'm sure it's tricky.
Yeah, it's beyond tricky.
Yeah, one imaginary conversation in a D&D show is not going to cover all the bases, but, we tried.
No, and that's what I mean by doing justice is like, if at the end of that conversation, Civ was just like, okay, I'm done drinking. Great, thank you so much. After school special moment, that's not the kind of show that we're doing. Thank you, Al-Anon.
I actually kind of have a follow-up question. I once had a character who was a barbarian, and the only reason that she raged was because of some trauma that she had been through. And another character helped her work through that trauma in our campaign. And I kind of felt like basically what we did is we came up with a meditation that she would do so that she wouldn't get so angry and black out. But once I had kind of achieved my peace, my nirvana, I didn't have a reason to rage anymore, and I felt like I lost a big piece of my character, like a big kind of like crux of like a reason of what I do, so of why I do what I do. So do you feel that that's true for Civ? You kind of said that you didn't have him built in the beginning with the alcoholism, so.
Yeah, no, the alcoholism, it helps define him and describe him, but it is not who he is. That is not, all he is.
And it's not why he does what he does.
Yeah, I try to make multidimensional characters. I want Civ to have some depth, and so there's a lot going on behind the scenes. I think everybody on the show does that, which is great. Everybody has what's happening in the show happening in that moment. But we all, as actors, as performers, even Jeff with some of his characters, especially the ones that are repeat characters, there's something going on, in the back of your mind at all times. There's something that you're feeling at all times, and you don't necessarily express that in every moment because you can't, and that's also just not how people are. So I don't think that Civ would be hugely different if the alcoholism thing wasn't there. I think that's just one piece of the puzzle of what makes Civ. And that's also one of the things that I think, I think that's one of the things that's interesting about the journey that these characters are taking for all of us, is that our characters are growing and changing and morphing. I've been watching a lot of our old episodes. I've been watching a lot of the ones that are like, I just finished the Vargan thing, but I was leading up to that. I've been watching up to that, and I rewatched the Clam episode, and I rewatched a lot of that stuff just to kind of see where we were when we were in the studio and our relationships. Man, things have changed so much. I mean, Fahima is so much more mature now than what she used to be. I mean, she used to be so naive to the point where it was almost impossible to argue with you because you had good points, but you were also saying things where it was like, well, that's not how the world works, girl, Do
you have an example?
Yeah, Hamlet.
Oh, Hamlet.
Every time I saw the Hamlet stuff and the arguing back and forth, I was like, she is 100% right. She's 100% right. But that's not how the world is. It's just like Uggo viewing everything in black and white in the beginning. And now, finally, however many episodes later, he's starting to see both sides of every argument. He's starting to, really go, well, hey, I may feel this way and you may feel this way, but there's a middle ground here. There's a compromise here. And if you look at the earlier episodes, that was not the case. There was Uggo's way, and then there was the highway. And those were the two options.
Yeah. He was much more obtuse in the beginning.
Yeah. it's really fascinating as a character study to see how everyone has grown and changed. And I think Fahima has actually changed the most when it comes to her relationship to everybody else in the party and how she fits into that and how she reacts to the situations that we're in. And that's a testament to you as a performer, because I remember in the beginning how much heat you were getting for playing this naive character.
Yeah, it was. It's hard, definitely, to play the beginning of the arc where you're not, where you are making stupid decisions, like letting a blink dog, like trying to pet a monster. You know, like people get mad at you for doing that. People, I mean, I was called obnoxious, and you know what, Fimo was obnoxious sometimes, but for me, that was the way I wanted to start the arc, and yeah, I'm glad that it is paying off. Finally, I mean,
I'm glad you stuck with it
because of the Action Mage and that whole encounter.
Yeah, and that's great because I mean that's storytelling. You know, at its best is when a character starts out, you know, frustratingly naive, and then throughout the arc of the story has these people and these instances change her bit by bit. To where now, I think it would be completely possible for Uggo to scream out Hamlet and to have Fahima blast somebody in the face. You know?
Is that somebody a human or a creature?
One or the other. I mean, sure, we'll say it's a human because I know it would be easier for you to blast a human in the face than a creature. But I guess my point is that I could see that happening. And if you watch those early episodes, if you go back and watch those early episodes, I don't think anyone would have been able to predict that happening now. You know what I mean? Uggo saying no, or let's give them a chance, or let's talk to them first, or let's find out the truth of this situation. And Fahima being the one that, you know, kills someone outright. Yeah. And I also think Lily has changed a lot too, because in the beginning she was very positive and happy and upbeat and always there with a joke and so caring and so kind. And I think all of the stuff with her family and then realizing that the world is not rainbow and sunshine, she has changed a ton, and I don't know if the watchers have even seen her complete transformation yet, or her where is Lily going to go next? What is her, you know, thought process on things like the halflings? That's a great example of Treacherocidal. I don't know if she would have reacted as strongly to the halfling's death now as she did when it happened, because at that point she was still struggling with, are we heroes or are we the villains in this story? And there isn't a clear-cut answer to that.
Yeah, I don't think we've
Jeff
answered
is
that
making
question
it.
yet.
Jeff is making it very hard for us to stay heroes. Right now. You guys are about ready to go into, what's her name?
Persta,
thank you. Persta Samuel's bunker, her fort. Anything could happen in there. She's supposed to be the law of this town. She's supposed to be this law-abiding, law-enforcing entity. She could very well try to throw you guys in jail. And that could trigger a series of events that will make our group up here on paper villains. That could very easily happen. And that's because of Jeff's storytelling. That's because of the situation that we're in. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say we still haven't discussed yet as a group how we're going to, if we have any ideas about how we're going to approach that.
Yeah.
And also, I was just talking to talking to somebody who doesn't play D&D. Maybe it was one of my sisters, but I was just describing how the level of political intrigue that's happening. I remember. I was basically describing what happened in the last episode and the situation of us being in Turles and the moratorium on magic and how we are villainized, but we didn't do it, and just exactly what you just described and how many layers there is to that. And it is very much so like a novel or TV show like Game of Thrones or something where it's unpredictable what's going to happen next. And
this is probably one of the most Game of Thronesy moments we've had in the show.
And his
going
NPCs,
in there and trying to prove your innocence.
Jeff's NPCs are very nuanced as well. There was a moment in the last episode, I think it was Wax. There was some you tried to say something to Wax, and the way that Wax reacted was so smart, like so as if Jeff had like written 5 pages on Wax's personality, that I was like, oh my God, this is next level. It was like I was a full audience member watching in that moment of like admiration and just I guess admiring the writing of the scene, if you can call it that.
Yeah. The improvised writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shoot! I know it's scripted now.
Yeah, I often think that sometimes people that are watching our show forget sometimes that these are our characters, these are not us, and so when we get into these moments where it's very emotional, it's oftentimes difficult to kind of differentiate those two. And there are times where things haunt me that happen in this game, where I'll have a hard time going to sleep at night because of something that happened in the game. And that's a testament to the, what's the word? Commitment that we've all made. I think it could have been very easily directed when we were at Caffeine to have this show be very lighthearted and fun and funny, and there are those moments, and I'm glad they're there. But somewhere along the line, we got real.
Mm-hmm. When do you think that happened?
I don't know. That's a good question for chat. You guys can tell us when you think it happened. But when we started making things real, then it was like, choices and consequences became a theme, and also like, how do you really truly feel with the pressure of trying to be a hero if you're just a person? Yes, you have magical abilities. Yes, you might be an excellent swordsman. Yes, you might be incredibly strong or something along those lines, but it's got to be taxing. It's got to be taxing to try to, especially with Jeff's storytelling, where there's catch-22s around every corner, where you make a choice, and by making that choice, yes, you save these people, but these people over here are going to suffer, or you're going to suffer by making that choice.
Yeah.
Ugo is a great example. He gave up a huge part of what made him who he is to help his people. And how does that affect you? How does that affect your mindset and your relationship? And how is he going to feel if one of us die and he's not able to protect that person because he no longer has his barbarian
that'll
powers?
Haunt Ron, for sure. We have a couple of comments in chat about the moment that they think that we got serious, and I saw Lily almost dying, falling from the lodestar. The Battle of Bingle. I think that actually is what I agree with Ahoy Gingerbeard. Maybe even back to Seth, says Kaz Farron. That's wild, man, when you were trying to save a son and mother from capture. Those are all great moments. Maybe at Stranger's Fete, when Lily almost walked away. Stranger's Fate, I always pronounce it.
Yeah.
By Treacherous Idol. And we're going to go a little bit past one because we did have some technical difficulties, but do we have any Patreon questions that we haven't gotten to yet?
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe we should kind of
David Gen
slide
Pro.
through those.
Yeah. David Gen Pro. I mean, we talked about a lot of this stuff already, but I'm impressed how the effects of trauma are portrayed in the TDR characters. Wow. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Especially Civ. Self-medicating with alcohol and seemingly recently unraveling more with increased high-risk borderline suicidal behavior and an apparent indifferent attitude towards his own death. With dangers mounting, demons everywhere, and no opportunity for psychological rest/healing, is Civ near a breaking point? Yes. The answer to that is yes. Yeah. Yes, he is. My hope.
That is my dog. I'm going to mute.
It's all good. My hope. Okay. It's all right. My hope is that we do not fail in Turles like we failed in Ulswatch. If we can get out of Turles with some modicum amount of success, and success meaning the moratorium going away, Jorel being freed, maybe clearing our name, those sorts of things, that will renew some of Civ's hope that we at least have the power to control our own fates and help people. If that does not happen, if we fail, especially if we fail like we failed in Ulswatch, that will be a massive, massive blow to Civ. That will borderline ruin him, because that is kind of where he's at this point. And it's taken the whole team, everybody, Fahima, James, Ugo, and Lily, to keep Civ sane and keep him involved and keep him caring and feed his hope. So yeah, that's how I'm going to answer that question. And then another one from David Gen Pro. Can you hear me, Jess? Nod if you can hear me. Okay.
Yes.
I guess I could ask the same of Fahima, who seems to be getting darker, i.e. wanting to experiment on Audric Lucern's corpse. Although for her, maybe is Fahima nearing a tipping point into something like dark Ashen Mage type blood magic?
Well, I might need to hear that question again. What's the specific question in there? Is she getting darker?
Yeah, I think the question is, Civ is going down this downward spiral. Is Fahima going down a downward spiral as well, or is it something different? Is she becoming more obsessed with the Ashen Mage and blood magic? Is that her next step?
Yes, that is definitely true. As Fahima kind of admitted to Civ, and also you may know this if you read Fahima's diary that's posted in the Patreon. Fahima has kind of like a secret addiction / obsession with the Ashen Mage, and I think it's all under the guise of wanting to become as powerful as her to combat her. But I also kind of feel like I feel kind of like a tug at her essence, her existence, because I think my very first D&D character was a water genasi, and so I had kind of have it ingrained in my mind that because I read all about genasi and all about like a married parent who's very haughty, and we all know that the Afridi monsters in D&D are very vicious. I kind of have it ingrained that this genie side of her, whatever that is thinks it's invincible, thinks that she's destined for power, she's destined for more, for leadership. And so as cognitive as I can try to play her, as caring, as thoughtful as I can try to play her, I always kind of feel this tug at her to be a bit reckless, to what's the worst that can happen if I just play a little bit more in this, if I push the limit, if I push the boundaries. So Yeah, I guess it's kind of like anybody else in real life who has this penchant for pushing the boundaries. I think it can lead you down a dark path. So yeah.
Right. It'd be interesting to see what Fahima would do if she was given another option. Like, imagine if Jeff had another NPC come along that was a mage of some kind that wasn't blood magic and offered her an apprenticeship. It'd be very interesting to see Fahima's choice. You know
Well,
what I
that's
mean?
kind of her dad, right? Her dad is this
Ah, I see.
mage
Okay.
who she looks up to, but he's been absent and also lying to her. So I think that also has
Yeah.
kind of turned her around the other way. But I don't know. I think it would depend
That'll
on
be
how
a
much.
great moment when you finally get to see your dad again, and your dad is like, "What are you doing? What is with this blood magic?" And you'd be like, "Well, you weren't there for me."
I have a whole diary entry on what Conroy's thoughts are on necromancy. It's from way back when we started the show, actually, and her thoughts on the
Awesome.
different schools of magic. And my answer to which one might she be pulled more towards, I think it really just depends on how whoever's haircut she likes more. It's as simple as that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Let me see Discord. We have some questions. Can we talk about Civirex trauma? We've talked about that a lot.
Yes.
What's another question? What is your reaction to potentially being able to meet the Lord Ereban, both as a player and as a character?
So
Well,
excited.
we've kind of already met Lord Ereban a little bit, but it would be nice.
Kinda.
I
Like
would
2 years
love.
ago.
I know it would be absolutely lovely to have full scenes with Lord Ereban. I would love that. I think that would be great for the story, and I think it would be an amazing moment for the fans to watch as well. So I hope that happens at some point. It might.
I
I
hope
mean, we're trying to find him, right?
I hope Jeff like emails me and is like, "Hey, can you make a seven? No, a 7-person overlay? Don't ask me why."
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
would
mean,
love to have a guest.
we're still in contact with Lord Ereban in real life as well as in the show, sort of. So yeah, I hope that happens. To go back to some of the stuff in chat, people were asking more about is Civ really prepared to die or break down to the point where he's not functional and what have you. I hope not. I hope not. I have a lot of hope, me personally, for Jared, that that's not going to be the case. But I think, much like the Uggo moment, not that Civ is really the super self-sacrificing kind of character, because he's not. He's had to survive. He's had to watch his friends die, but he always survives, and that's why he's got that guilt. I hope that never happens. I really do. I hope that things turn out well for us, and things get better in Turles. I hope that. I think Civ is pretty pessimistic at this point that that's going to be the case. But I think deep down inside he really, really wants, and this is the whole reason why he gave that short sword to Wax. He really wants things to get better, not just for the rich and powerful, but for everyone, especially the people that have been tread upon and forgotten and treated just absolutely terribly in this world of Vine. So yeah, I think with the help of his friends and a few good rolls and hopefully some NPCs that are actually on our side, that things can get better, and you'll see Civ slowly start to crawl out from that dark place that he's in right now. Redhead Stepchild 71. Curious as well about my Daywall's question. Has any in-game decision ever caused tension between players in real life? Just curious. No, we all get along really well outside of the show.
We talk about
We
it.
usually,
For sure.
Yeah, we usually end up
check
talking
in.
about the show after the show is over for like a good 20, 30 minutes, even if people are like exhausted or emotionally drained. Yeah, we talk about it, and we love the story, and we love, these characters and where things are going and how things are developing. So it's fun for us. I always view it as like that juicy piece of meat that you get to sink your teeth into as an actor. That's how I view this. We're getting to sink our teeth into, you know, something that we all have communally created and put a lot of time and passion and love into.
What I can
So
say
what
is
about
that
you?
I think that's all true for sure. In the beginning, I think because we didn't know each other yet, we were all strangers. We were talking a lot more about each other's boundaries and checking in more. And I remember there were a couple times where I was upset about something that happened, and I just talked to the group about it, and we talked it out. And I feel
Yeah.
like that only really happened in the first year or so. Like, I think now we're such a well-oiled machine that we do still talk about moments, but I don't think it's ever personal. It's like we we know in the moment now, because we know each other so well and we trust each other, that uh,
Yeah.
we know where each other's boundaries are, I should say. And so we can go up to that
Sure.
boundary and we don't have to discuss it.
Yeah. And luckily, I think our boundaries, because we do trust each other so much, are pretty loose. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I would be shocked if anybody said something or did something in game that took it too far, especially
Yeah.
because we try to be family friendly. Some of this subject matter is very dark. I think talking about it is important. Otherwise, I don't think we would do it. And I realize that. And I realize there is a lot of violence in this show, not necessarily shown violence. And I'm sensitive to that, being a dad now, watching how, how violent even kids' TV shows are nowadays. But I think we juxtapose that in a very lovely way, where we show the reality of those situations and how that affects these people in a very real, grounded manner. And that's equally important. And then what I love is that there are people like Katie and Ron, really everybody at certain points, brings that comedy back in on top of all of the dark, serious subject matters, and gives you the release, gives you that moment to laugh and forget about your troubles for a little while,
Yeah.
which really helps with the peaks and valleys, so that we're not always dark and
Yeah.
serious, but we're also not always, making silly jokes.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
as much as we try, and as much as we do trust each other and talk all the time about the story, it's still an improvised show. It's still on the spot. No one knows what's going to happen. So sometimes we can get caught in the valleys, and sometimes we can get caught in the peaks. But that's kind of the nature of an improvised show, and that's kind of like, it's like live theater, like that's the magic of being there when it happens live, because it's not perfect. So it is
Yeah.
always an ongoing conversation, and I would encourage you in your home games to not be afraid to have those conversations too, because it's important. There are real feelings involved, and if you want to tell a fulfilling story that lasts for years and years and years, then don't shy away from having a conversation about what you want out of the story.
Yeah. I mean, I thoroughly, me personally, as a player, and storyteller, I really enjoy the meat as well as the fluff. I like both in all of my games. There are times where I'll get into a game where it's too dark and too serious all the time, and there's other times where I've been in games where it's too happy, puffy, light, jokey all of the time. My ideal role-playing game scenario is always an equal marriage of those two. That's what I love, and that's one of the great things about getting to do this show is I feel like we get to do both.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. There was a couple comments in chat about moments where folks thought that you and Ron are mad at each other, and I bet there's people who thought Ron and Morgan were mad at each other in real life, and the answer is, very truthfully, no one is mad at each other at all.
Yeah. We're never actually mad with each other. There are just moments where it's like, you know, like with the Ron giving up all of his levels, where I was sitting there going, you know, as Civ, I was thinking, you shouldn't have to do this. You don't need to do this. I don't want you to do this. And as Jared, I was at the exact same time going, but wouldn't it be cool if Ron, as a storytelling thing, had to give up all of his levels of Barbarian? Wouldn't that be awesome? Like, nobody's done that in another stream or another show, not that I know of anyways. So, yeah, you should just let him do it. And then I would switch back into Civ brain in that moment at the same time. I can even see it on my face when I rewatched it. And I was like, but Civ wouldn't let him do that. He wouldn't let him just sacrifice all of that power. And that's what's kept us alive. And his ability to stop people dead in their tracks with Sentinel and all of his Barbarian abilities where he can reduce damage, and his ancestors mean so much to him. And why does he have to sacrifice all of that? That's not fair. That's not right. He shouldn't have to do that. He hasn't done anything wrong.
That's where it gets tricky, right, between player and character, because you want to prevent that from happening as a character, but you don't want to say no to somebody's choice. So you really just have to trust the DM, and you have to trust the storytelling. That's all going to play out. Because I know in the moment I was like, oh no, I hope this isn't Jared wanting to stop Uggo, and because Uggo, you know, Ron should be able to do that. And you know, if that was the case, then Jeff would have had to devise some way to still give Ron a choice, but that would never happen. So
yeah. And honestly, part of the reason why, and this is a huge inside secret for anybody that actually watches this and everyone that's in chat right now, part of the reason why I did the approach that I did, where I attempted to grapple him, is because I knew if Ron really wanted to do this, he could beat Civ in a grapple check. But I wasn't going to make it easy for him. I wasn't going to just let him sacrifice this huge part of his character. So that's why I chose to try to tackle him. If I really wanted to stop him, I have things in my bag of tricks that, trust me, would have put him down. I didn't want to do that. And that's also one of the reasons why I chose the approach that I chose, because I was like, hey, I'm still leaving it in Ron's hands. He can still decide as Uggo that I want to sacrifice these levels. But I certainly wasn't going to just stand there and watch him do it as Civ. There's no way.
I think you're one of the only people that could have stopped him without being like too aggressive. Because if Fahima tried to stop Uggo, I don't even know how that would work.
Sure.
Like, she'd have to use a spell, and then that would be so aggressive.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely more aggressive approaches that could have been taken. And I think there was also a moment where they were like, well, do you even know what he's doing? And Ron was very clear about, you know, how he was going about doing this ritual, we'll call it, and what he was saying and how he was expressing this pain. And I think Civ knows Uggo well enough, especially at this moment, how self-sacrificing he is, which he constantly does for our group and for other people. He could just sense that there was something wrong and see it and hear it. And then that's when I had to make that insight check, and I got that nat 20, and I was like, all right, well then I know this is coming. I see him doing it. I see him going there. I'm going to try to stop this. But again, with a grapple check.
Well, did we get to all the questions? Yeah. We're way over time today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, whatever. I really enjoyed this talk today, Jessica. I hope you did too. I really like deep diving into like the the juicy actor side of
Yeah,
all
it's
of
new
this.
every week.
Yeah.
Yeah, last week was
Yeah.
lore and guessing at what's gonna happen next, and this week was inside the artist's brain.
Yeah, it's the inside the actor's studio version of the Cooldown. Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily have anything else that I feel like we haven't touched on. There is one comment in here that is a little concerning, though, that
What?
I'm going to bring up with Katie. Firevarm says, I see a lot of frustration on Katie's face sometimes, though. It seems like people interrupt her turns a lot. So I will take that seriously, Firevarm. I am going to check in with Katie, which is what we do on this show. We check in with each other and make sure that her voice is getting heard, because I think that's important. I think it's very important that nobody feels like they're getting pushed out or not heard or not getting to do what they want to do. So I will check in with Katie and make sure that she is happy puffy and gets to be the Lily that she wants to be.
Happy puffy.
In Soviet Russia, Katie interrupts you. Yes, Borkware, yes. Anything else that you'd like to talk about, Jessica?
No, I was just looking to see who else is playing D&D right now.
Okay.
And I wanted to shout out to Tuomas. Thank you so much for gifting a sub to our community member Mushi87. And thank you to the Barris Bear for subbing with your Prime account. If you didn't know, you can do that for free. So thank you so much for your support. And we'll see you Wednesday for the dungeon run. And I think we should just send a raid over to Xanderific. He's playing Wraith the Oblivion. And give him a hello from the dungeon run. And we'll see you on Wednesday.
Bye. See you Wednesday.
Bye, everybody.